Good morning. Good morning. Make your way, if you would, to Exodus chapter 33. That's going to kind of be the plan for today, is to try to get through 33 and 34. I do want to bring up. It's been a couple of weeks, so I want to bring up something that always comes up, I think, in this section, really chapter 32 especially, that we talked about, and it's fun to think about. How about that? Let's go with that. Is when God tells Moses, right, the golden calf, that go down, leave me alone, right? I'm going to kill all these people, and I'm going to start over with you. That Moses says, don't do that, right? He intercedes on behalf of Israel, and God relents. And so what comes up often, and with good reason, by the way, is this question of, does God change his mind? Or can God change his mind? And then you jump off into all kinds of deep philosophical stuff that, I mean, it's been talked about for, centuries. People like, if I'm hoping I remember the names right, people like, it gets into the idea of whether or not we actually have free will, and so you get to people like Pelagius, who believe that we have to absolutely have free will, to the point that we could, takes it a little bit far, I think, that we could actually choose to not sin. Okay? And I think that's a good thought, right, in some ways, but I don't know that I want to bet my future on it, right? And then to people like who get later on of absolute predestination, that God knows every move that everybody's going to make, and God is moving the pieces around on there. And then you've got another one that cropped up. It actually cropped up a long time ago, but it's making inroads again if you read that kind of stuff, which I try not to. And that is that it's a thing called Molinism. So if you want to get bored sometime, there you go. Need a nap. Find that, pull that up and read it, about what God knows and what God does with his knowledge. And I think those are all good things, okay? So don't get me wrong. I'm not bad-mouthing that at all. I think it's a great thing for us to think about, and it shows that we're investigating and trying to find out more and more of who God is. But I don't want us to forget the original audience of Exodus, okay? Because I just don't think, I may be wrong, I don't think that they had that kind of thing in mind at all. But what is it that the author of Exodus, what is it that Moses is trying to get across to the people who are going to read this, right? And maybe it's this. This is kind of harsh, but just get ready. That the only reason, Israel, the only reason that you're here is because God is merciful. Okay? Do we think of it that way? Of going, you just came out of Egypt, you went to you've heard God, Moses goes up to get the law, and you do something incredibly stupid. And the only reason that you're not dead, right? The only reason that this is the nation of Israel, not the nation of Moses, is because God's merciful. And I think that may be the point of that section, is that for Israel to remember, Israel has enough trouble later on of trusting in their own goodness, right? But to go back to your roots, to go, the only reason any of you are breathing is because of God's grace. And I don't think that's a bad thing for us to take away from it either. Okay? All right. So, I want to move on. Chapter 33. I think I have the first 6 verses, hopefully, up on the screen. The Lord said to Moses, "Depart. Go up from here, you and the people whom you have brought up out of the land of Egypt, to the land of which I swore to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, saying, to your offspring I will give it. I will send an angel before you. I will drive out the Canaanites, the Amorites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. Go up to a land flowing with milk and honey, but I will not go up among you, lest I consume you on the way. for you are a stiff-necked people." When the people heard this disastrous word, they mourned. No one put on his ornaments, for the Lord had said to Moses, "Say to the people of Israel, you are a stiff-necked people. If for a single moment I should go up among you, I would consume you. Now take off your ornaments, that I may know what to do with you." Therefore the people of Israel stripped themselves of their ornaments from Mount Horeb onward. We need to know that until we get a little ways down the road here, that the issue's not settled. Right? The issue of whether or not God's going to go with them and how this is all going to work out has not yet been settled. And so he starts here of going, "Moses, go." Go, and this is, I think this is another one of those things, if we're not paying attention, we miss it. You go and you lead these people that you brought up out of Egypt. Right? Hold on, Stan. Nothing is really said. I don't know. Stan asked about the ornaments that they take off, whatever jewelry this may be. It's not really, isn't really talked about much. But this is just this idea of, I don't know. There's a lot of things we might read into that, of an act of humility, right? Of being unadorned, before God. But anyway, it's not quite settled. And so that question's going to come up. So God says, "Go ahead. I'm going to give you the land that I promised. I'm going to give these people that you brought out of Egypt the land that I promised. I'm going to send an angel before you. They're going to drive them out, and you're going to settle it." But God says, "I'm not going." Okay? I'm not going to go. I think it's... I think it's something on the part of the people of Israel. Because when they hear the news, they mourn. And it's not because they're not going to get the land. It's because God's not going to be there. Right? Yes, Bill.
Is there any information you might have as to what they would wear? Would they likely have some jewelry that represents their false idols?
Yeah, again, I don't know. Nothing's really said. And the stuff I've read, nobody's really got any indication of what that is. So, and God lets them sit in it, right? Kind of lets them stew in it, because they don't know what he's going to do. Now, let's move on. Let's go to the next little section here. All right. Moses used to take the tent and pitch it outside the camp, far off from the camp. He called it the tent of meeting. Everyone who sought the Lord would go out to the tent of meeting, which was outside the camp. Whenever Moses went out to the tent, all the people would rise up. Each would stand in his tent door and watch Moses until he had gone into the tent. When Moses entered the tent, the pillar of cloud would descend and stand at the entrance of the tent, and the Lord would speak with Moses. When all the people saw the pillar of cloud standing at the entrance of the tent, all the people would rise up and worship, each at his tent door. Thus the Lord used to speak to Moses face to face as a man speaks to his friend. When Moses turned again into the camp, his assistant Joshua the son of Nun, a young man, would not depart from the tent. Okay. This seems out of order. Okay, I'm sorry. But just at first read, this seems like this is... I hate to say this, but it seems like this is material we don't really need. But it's not true, right? Because we're talking about, God trying to figure out what he's going to do, and Moses talking with God. Is God going to go with the people, or is he not going to go with the people, and the decision that God's making. And then we get interrupted by this little story of the tent. Now, it's not the tabernacle, because it can't be, right? Moses was in the middle of getting the instructions for the tabernacle when God said, "Get out of here and go take care of the kids." Right? They're causing trouble. And so that's not been done yet. So that can't be it. Not only that, we're going to notice whenever the tabernacle is built that its place is not outside the camp. It's in it. Actually, it's going to be in the middle of it. So this is a tent outside of the camp. So the question, I think, that this little section is trying to at least get in our minds and in the minds of their readers is, will God go with them? Can God go with them? And they are obviously worried about this because they mourn when they hear the news that God's not going to go. But this is that God's still communicating with them, but at a distance right now. It's like he's keeping his distance, but he's not cut them off. How's that? That make sense? It's kind of a hopeful sign that he's not broken off communication, but the only one that he will communicate with is Moses, and Moses alone. Okay? Now we get to the fun part. Or it's all fun, but let's look at this part. Starting in verse 12. Moses said to the Lord, "See, you say to me, bring up this people, but you have not let me know whom you will send with me. Yet you have said, I know you by name, and you have also found favor in my sight. Now therefore, if I have found favor in your sight, please show me now your ways, that I may know you in order to find favor in your sight. Consider too that this nation is your people." And he said, "My presence will go with you, I will give you rest." And he said to him, "If your presence will not go with me, do not bring us up from here. For how shall it be known that I have found favor in your sight, I and your people? Is it not in your going with us, so that we are distinct, I and your people, from every other people on the face of the earth?" Okay. This is a little confusing too. Moses, when Moses speaks to the Lord, he says, "Okay, you've said that you're bring up this people, but you have not let me know who's going to go with me." It could be a couple of things. It could be that Moses is asking about, right, because what the last thing was that God says, I'm going to send you, and I'll send an angel before you. And maybe it is that Moses is asking that, but I think maybe Moses is asking and going, are the people going with me or not? Because I don't think, right, we don't know if that's been decided yet. Are they going with me or not? And then Moses reminds him, these are not my people. These are your people. Right? These are your folks. These are the ones you led out. In verse 14, and there's a little debate on this. God says, "My presence will go with you and I will give you rest." There's a little debate on whether or not that's singular or plural, the you. And I think it can go either way. I'm not all that familiar with Hebrew, but I believe it could go either way. And I almost think that it's singular. That God is telling Moses, I'll go with you, and I'll give you rest. And the reason I think that is because right after that, Moses said, if your presence will not go with me, do not bring us. Right? For Moses, it's, I'm with them. Now, I don't think we covered this. If we did, it's not in my notes, but that's not a surprise. I want us to watch Moses, and then I want us to think about something else down the road. Moses is at Sinai here with God, and God says, okay, right, you're my guy. And if we're right, or if I'm right, I'll lead you and I'll give you rest. And Moses goes, no, I'm with them. He does this back in chapter 32 as well. When he says, if you can't forgive them, then don't forgive me either. Right? And I'm with them. Now, I want you to fast forward. Math's hard. So Anywhere from 15 to 1,300 years. How about that? Because there's a debate on when the Exodus happened. And Jesus comes to the Jordan River. And there's John. And John takes a good look at Jesus and he goes, nope, not going to do it. Right? You got this backwards. I shouldn't be baptizing you. You ought to be baptizing me. Right? And at least the narratives all point to the fact that all the people of Judah, all the people are from Jerusalem are coming out to John, and Jesus looks at all of sinful Israel and says, I'm with them. That Jesus goes, I'm with them. What we get here in this part of Exodus is the fact that the people need somebody to stand before God and plead their case. And at that point it's Moses, but Moses is not going to be the one to plead it ultimately. That there is one who will come, who will stand before God and plead our case and say, no, I'm with them. Now, I don't know where that gets you, but it gets me pretty hard. Right? It hits us pretty hard. Right? How will it be known?
Jeff?
Yeah.
This is confusing to me. Earlier in chapter 23, it says that Moses and God talked face to face as friends would.
Mm-hmm.
And then later in the chapter, he says, now you can't see my face.
Right.
Because anyone looks on my face will die.
Right.
It seems contradictory.
Yes, it does. I agree. No, I'm kidding. I think, and this is just, I think, that gets repeated quite a bit. It actually gets repeated again at the death of Moses. That there was never another prophet in all of Israel that God knew face to face. I think it's just an idiom for the people of going the closeness of God and Moses as in friends.
Well, it could be that cloud that was over the tent also came into the tent.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so that we, how the mechanics of that. But I really do think that's what it is just a reminder of Moses' relationship, right? And the closeness that he has with God. Well, I like about Moses here in chapter 15 chapter 33, verse 15 and verse 16. Moses says, if your presence will not go with me, do not bring us up from here. For how shall it be known that I have found favor in your sight, I and your people? Is it not in your going with us so that we are distinct, I and your people, from every other people on the face of the earth? I've said this before, and I hope you don't get tired of it, but I wish I was more like Moses here. Anybody else? Because Moses is content to say, I'm not going unless you do. Right? If you don't go with me, I don't go. And way too many times, and I'm sure I'm the only one, but way too many times, I went, this is where I'm going. God, I hope you catch up. Right? I go, it's almost like I'm going to go do this, cover me, right? But that's not Moses. But the other thing about Moses that I hope that we catch is of going, what makes Israel different is the presence of God in them and among them, right? Moses said, how's anybody else going to know that we are different from anybody else on the face of the earth unless you are with us? If we fast forward a ways, and we find Jesus again with this promise to his followers that I will not leave you as orphans. Right? It's better that I go away. This is all in John, anywhere from 13 to 16. It's jumbled up in my mind, so you'll find it if you read it. But the Father will send the Helper, the Spirit, who will be with you and in you. And that's not just a novelty thing, by the way. It's supposed to be so that we're transformed people, so that we don't look like the rest of the people on the face of the earth. How will they know that we're different unless the Spirit of God dwells in us and transforms us? How about that? Okay. Moses gets bold. Oh, sorry. Somebody did a poor job on that PowerPoint. Yeah, well, we'll just have to read it out of the book. Here we go. Start at verse 17. The Lord said to Moses, "This very thing that you have spoken I will do, for you found favor in my sight, and I know you by name." Moses says, "Please show me your glory." And he said, I will make all my goodness pass before you, and will proclaim before you my name, the Lord. And I will be gracious to whom I will be gracious, and I will show mercy on whom I will show mercy. But, he said, you cannot see my face. For a man shall not see me and live. And the Lord said, there is a place by me where you shall stand on the rock. While my glory passes by, I will put you in the cleft of the rock, and I will cover you with my hand until I have passed by. Then I will take away my hand, and you shall see my back, but my face shall not be seen. So I don't know. There's this part of me that goes, Moses is on a roll here, right? I'm going, okay, I'm feeling pretty good. Now let me see you face to face. And God says no. For the protection of Moses. Right? Moses is not really certain, I don't think, and I think that's probably the case for many of us, not really sure what he's asking for here. But God says, okay, I'll do something. But I'll cover your face. And you can only see a part. That's got a lot in it, right? You feel like we're jumping back and forth. I don't like to do that, but we're going to do it again. We jump forward, and Moses gets his wish at the Transfiguration. Right? Probably gets it long before that, but he gets his wish at the Transfiguration. Because as Jesus and those three ascend the mountain, and Jesus is transfigured before them, and the gospel writers give us the description of him as the glory of God, and who stands there with him but Moses, who gets to see it. Huh? There's another one, by the way, Elijah. Elijah also asked to see God at Mount Horeb. Ray.
Seeing God's face, and having a conversation as if one-on-one. If the two people are in private and they're speaking back and forth, there's a tone of conversation that two people have. And maybe that Moses was hearing God when he was in private meditation, hearing God and communicating with God.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think that's probably right. And the other thing is now, and this gets even more pronounced, I think. And this is kind of a theme that carries through not just here in Exodus, but as the tabernacle is built, and then you get into the book of Leviticus, which I know you can't wait for, but you get into Leviticus and into Numbers, is that that the holiness of God is dangerous. How about that? The holiness of God is dangerous, especially to the unholy. Because when the two things meet, right? When the holy and the unholy meet, judgment happens. And it never works out well for the unholy. Ever. And so that's that part of that of God knowing this and Moses not, maybe here, of God going, okay, that's not going to work out well for you, so here. You're going to get to, just one minute, you're going to get to the book of Numbers, which I know, again, you can't wait for that. But you get the book of Numbers, and we have the arrangement of the camp. And the arrangement of the camp is that the presence of God's in the middle, right? And then the Levites around, and then the rest of the tribes of Israel. And the Levites are around the closest to the presence of God, and they mediate on behalf of God. They serve as priests, and they serve as the ones who minister in the tabernacle for the sake of Israel, right? To keep Israel safe from the holiness of God. They have to approach in a certain way, or the holiness of God will destroy Israel. It's the burning bush, right? The God's not dependent on them, but he's not destroying them either. Go ahead.
Paul wrote to Timothy that God dwells in unapproachable light.
Yeah. Right. Right. Good one. Okay. Okay, let's move on to chapter 34. Wow, okay. The Lord said to Moses, cut for yourself 2 tablets of stone like the first, and I will write on the tablets the words that were on the first tablets, which you broke. Be ready by the morning, and come up in the morning to Mount Sinai, and present yourself there to me on top of the mountain. No one shall come up with you. Let no one be seen throughout all the mountain. Let no flocks or herds graze opposite that mountain. Moses cut 2 tablets of stone like the first. He rose early in the morning and went up on Mount Sinai, as the Lord had commanded him. He took in his hand 2 tablets of stone. The Lord descended in the cloud and stood with him there, and proclaimed the name of the Lord. The Lord passed before him and proclaimed, the Lord, a God merciful and gracious, slow to anger, and abounding in steadfast love and faithfulness, keeping steadfast love for thousands, forgiving iniquity and transgression and sin, but who will by no means clear the guilty, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children and the children's children to the 3rd and 4th generation. Moses quickly bowed his head toward the earth and worshipped. And he said, if I now have found favor in your sight, O Lord, please let the Lord go in the midst of us, for it is a stiff-necked people. Pardon our iniquity and our sin, and take us for your inheritance. And he said, behold, I am making a covenant before all your people. I will do marvels such as have not been created in all the earth or in any nation. And the people among whom you are shall see the work of the Lord, for it is an awesome thing that I will do with you. Okay. Now, again, we kind of know the end of the story, so it's hard to hold that. But since chapter 32, there's been that suspense of, is he going to go or is he not? Are we still his people or are we not? Right? It starts pretty drastically of going, no, Moses, they're your people, and I'm going to kill them. And then it's, no, they're my people, and no, they're your people, and they this back and forth. And so that is that tension. Is he going to go with us or is he not? And Moses, Moses is giving it his all. And he's interceding on behalf of the people, and he's going, okay, now what? And God says, okay, I'll make a covenant with you. I mean, I don't think we get that the way that they would have got that, but that's a huge sigh of relief coming from Israel. Of going, we are his people. Again, I hope that what they got from this, which is always dangerous, but what I hope that they got from this, that as they reviewed back who they are throughout the centuries, that they remembered we're only here. We're only in Canaan. We're only alive because of the mercy and the grace of God, because we were this close to being wiped out. And I hope that we get it, that we are only here, and we are only able to be called the people of God because of Him, because of His mercy and His grace, and because there was somebody willing to stand before Him and beg on our behalf. The one who said, I'm with them. And so the covenant is repeated. I do want to read this. Observe what I command you this day. Behold, I will drive out before you the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. Take care, lest you make a covenant with the inhabitants of the land to which you go, lest it become a snare in your midst. You shall tear down their altars and break their pillars and cut down their asherim. For you shall worship no other God. For the Lord, whose name is jealous, is a jealous God. Lest you make a covenant with the inhabitants of the land, and when they whore after their gods and sacrifice to their gods, and you're invited, you eat of his sacrifice. And you take of their daughters for your sons, and their daughters whore after their gods, and make your sons whore after their gods. You shall not make for yourself any god of cast metal. Now, if we remember back, this just hit me. If we remember back when the Ten Commandments are given, bear with me? The Ten Commandments are given. It seems pretty simple, right? I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt. You will have no other gods before me. You will not make for yourself any graven image, and we can think about that. Now, it's not really a coincidence, I don't think, that when it's given the second time here, that he spends a little more time on the other gods thing, right? Because that seems to be, and actually we know as we peeked ahead a little bit, this is going to be the problem that Israel has all the way through. And so he makes it very clear again. I'm going to make this covenant with you. Remember, this is kind of a treaty, kind of a formula. I'm going to give you this. I'm going to give you the land. I'm going to be with you. I'm going to provide for you. I'm going to protect you. But you cannot do this. If you make the covenant with somebody else, right, with the other gods of the land to which you're going to go, if you make a covenant with the people, that's going to move you in that direction as well, right? This is going to be vitally important because they've already proven within the first few days, right, of seeing God at Mount Sinai, that this is going to be a problem. And so once he gets done with that, he goes, and don't make anything out of gold either, right? Like, in case you missed it the first time, here we go. You shall keep the feast of unleavened bread. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread as I command you at the time appointed in the month of Abib. For in the month of Abib you came out of Egypt. All that open the womb are mine, all your male livestock, and firstborn of cow and sheep. The firstborn of donkey you shall redeem with a lamb, or if you will not redeem it, you shall break its neck. All the firstborn of your sons you shall redeem, and none shall appear before me empty-handed. 6 days you shall work, but on the seventh day you will rest. In plowing time and in harvest time you shall rest. You shall observe the Feast of Weeks, the first fruits of the wheat harvest, and the feast of ingathering at the year's end. 3 times in the year shall all your males appear before the Lord God, the God of Israel. For I will cast out nations before you and enlarge your borders. No one shall covet your land when you go up to appear before the Lord your God 3 times in the year. You shall not offer the blood of any of my sacrifice with anything leavened, or let the sacrifice of the piece of Passover remain until the morning. The best of the first fruits of your ground you shall bring to the house of the Lord your God. You shall not boil a young goat in its mother's milk. This thing gets repeated. I'm sorry. But this boiling the young goat in the mother's milk gets repeated. There's something to that I haven't figured out yet. And when I do, I don't know. I'll probably be long gone by then. But this is one of those things. Of all the things that you can do, This gets repeated, the first book of the covenant, and then here again. So there's got to be something. There's something to it. I haven't quite got it yet. Sorry. And the Lord said to Moses, write these words. For in accordance with these words, I have made a covenant with you and with Israel. So he was there with the Lord 40 days and 40 nights. He neither ate bread nor drank water. And he wrote on the tablets the words of the covenant, the 10 commandments, the 10 words. When Moses came down from the mountain, from Mount Sinai, with 2 tablets of the testimony in his hand, as he came down from the mountain, Moses did not know that the skin of his face shone, because he had been talking with God. Aaron and all the people of Israel saw Moses, and behold, the skin of his face shone. They were afraid to come near him. But Moses called to them, and Aaron and all the leaders of the congregation returned to him. And Moses talked with them. Afterward, all the people of Israel came near, and he commanded them all that the Lord had spoken with him in Mount Sinai. And when Moses had finished speaking with them, he put a veil over his face. Whenever Moses went in before the Lord to speak with him, he would remove the veil until he came out. When he came out, he told the people of Israel what he was commanded. The people of Israel would see the face of Moses, that the skin of Moses' face was shining. And Moses would put the veil back over his face again until he went in to speak with him. Moses assembled, this is the very first part of 35, Moses assembled all the congregation of the people of Israel and said, these are the things that the Lord has commanded you to do. 6 days work shall be done. On the 7th day you shall have a Sabbath of solemn rest, holy to the Lord. Whoever does any work on it shall be put to death. You shall kindle no fire in all your dwelling places on the Sabbath day. And we want to just stop there. This occurred to me, and you can tell me what you think of it. This occurred to me actually this past week. When you read through this here in Exodus, and I believe you're going to see the same kind of thing happen in Deuteronomy. There's some things that really get emphasized. Go ahead, Sue. Yeah. Really? Good. That's great. Great. So if you all didn't hear that, you need to. It's a place that Sue has talked about reading about this idea that I brought up, the boiling the young goat in the mother's milk. That it is too grievous, is the word that Sue used. It's too much for the mother of that young goat. That God cares that much about even the things like the mother of a young goat. That he would not, right? He wouldn't want to put her through that. That's something to think about. So, aside from that thing that gets emphasized, there is this. There's 2 things that kind of get emphasized over and over. And at least we see it here in this renewal of the covenant. And that is the idea of idolatry, right? The prohibition against idolatry. And the other one is Sabbath. That thing gets repeated over and over and over. I think, if my memory's right, which that's always tricky, that that in the 10 Commandments, the Sabbath gets the most explanation. It's the longest part of all of those 10. Of why you ought to do it, how you ought to do it, all that kind of stuff. It gets repeated again. And then if you notice that whenever God renews the covenant, it gives Moses this, the renewal of the covenant here, that Sabbath is brought up again. Big section on no other gods and don't you make anything out of gold, and then Sabbath. And then Moses comes back down all they talk about, right, all the author really talks about is the skin of Moses' face shining. But at the end of this, Moses goes, and don't forget the Sabbath. Okay. I think those two things are related. The prohibition against idolatry and Sabbath. I think they're related. I think they're very closely related. Two reasons, right? Now, you've heard me say this before. Two reasons that are given in the Old Testament, or at least the first 5 books, for keeping the Sabbath. One is that it points to God as the creator, right? In 6 days, God created heaven and the earth. He rested on the seventh. You're going to do the same, right? You're going to work 6 days. You're going to rest one day. To remember God, the creator, who's made all this and has created you, right? It's all in his hands. The second one is that you will remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy, for the Lord your God, it's the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt and out of the house of slavery. God as creator and God as redeemer. Now, if we can keep those two thoughts in mind, if Israel can keep these two thoughts in mind of the God who created them, right? And not just created them and said, best of luck, right? But the God who created them and the God who loves them enough to redeem them and to call them his own, then what other God are they going to go to? Right? What other God can make that claim? And maybe that's why God emphasizes it so much to them. If you'll remember me as creator and you'll remember me as redeemer, where else can you go? Who else would do this? I think that's a pretty good thing to think about, don't you? And if you and I can remember the God who created us and the God who's redeemed us, where else would we go? Where else could we possibly go to find hope and life? I want to stop there because I know that the bell is about to ring. I'm not a prophet or the son of a prophet, but I can read the clock. We'll pick up soon with the shining face of Moses. I do want you to think about this, if you want to read that section, and I think I wrote this down. I did not. It's in 2 Corinthians. You may want to help me out with the chapter where that is, where Paul talks about the unveiled face. You read this section here, and then go read what Paul has to say about that. Right? And just kind of start putting those things together. But right now, let's pray as we close. Father, we love you. We're reminded again of the fact that without your love and mercy and grace, we have zero hope. That we're only able to be called your people because of what you've done. The temptation is always there for us to look to something else that seems to promise good things. Help us to remember you as the one who has created us in your image. The one through whom all of this has come into being, and with that awesome power that you have is that you redeemed us and you loved us and want us as your own. Help us to keep those thoughts in mind as we go about our day, and that we remember who we are and whose we are. We're thankful, Father, for these ancient words, for all the ways that you continue to reveal yourself to us. Help us to lean into you and to remember that if you don't go with us, we don't move. We love you so much, Father. In Jesus' name, amen.